Hello and welcome to the World F3 Championship live on ApexRacingTV. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me this evening is Lee Thompson with Sam Kumo on the cameras. And we are here at a legendary circuit, Suzuka, and it's one of the best in the world, if not the best. And it's classic for these single-seaters. Will be great to see these Formula 3 cars tackle this track today.
Yeah, absolutely. What a cracking place for these guys to race at. I feel like it's a continual battle in my mind as to which of the tracks takes that kind of title, as you say, of best circuit in the world. And for me, it's here in Spa, and maybe Suzuka's got that little bit more of a rhythm to it, a bit more of a flow, especially, of course, the first sector as we're seeing Trevor Clement come through now through the S's and things. It's just a cracking place to, as you say, get to drive a single-seater car. So hopefully, despite the troubles with the car and the service in general, these guys are going to be enjoying tonight as they pound around this historic circuit. Of course, unique with its figure-of-8 layout as well.
Yes, I believe the only circuit that we go to figure-of-8. We don't go to Oran Park, of course. Well, I can't really think of any other figure-of-8 circuits, actually, but I think those are the only two. And yeah, of course, lots of overtaking spots as well for these drivers. Section could be quite prominent, but we'll have to wait and see if that is the case. In the championship, Peter Bowman's still leading the way. He's not here, unfortunately, today. So it gives an opportunity to newly promoted Paul Ilbrink, who got ahead of Kevin S. Jr. last time, to maybe close that gap. Ellis also isn't here today. Then it's Rasmussen and Simpson. Both of them are around. And then it's closely Lockwood, Nermella, and Clermont and Alsop rounding out the top 10 drivers. We just see Paul Ilbrink approaching just 130 out. It should be pretty simple flat in this car. You can see how tight he takes that line. Wants to waste as little time as possible. Alex Simpson just crossed the line and did a time half a tenth slower than the Radicals online driver. But let's see if Paul can extend his lead a little bit here.
Yeah, good to see Alex has been trying to keep Paul Ilbrink honest for now. Did Ilbrink manage to improve that time? Didn't look like it. Half a tenth
slower.
Yeah, exactly, just a fraction off. So could be a bit of a race of two for a race win here today with the drivers we've got in the field. But I think we're going to see some seriously close racing then for that final podium spot between the guys behind. We saw some pretty epic battles at Donington even last week between the likes of Rasmussen and Udoka and Bunn as well. So hopefully, yeah, we're gonna see kind of almost two interesting races here. Like I say, it's certainly good to see Simpson within half a tenth of Ilbrink now.
Yeah, hopefully those two will change each other. Maybe even Rasmussen could get involved, but looking a little bit unlucky. Udoka's just impeded. He moves up ahead of his teammates into fourth. Matt Bunn setting his time now. This will be his first. I don't even set a practice time either, so don't expect Bunn necessarily to be right onto the back of the top 5. As in fact, actually, that was just an outlap, so he'll go for his first flying lap right now. So just see if it's some Motorsport driver exit the pits as well. Of course, tomorrow, Lee, I don't know if you've ever actually raced in it, but of course we've got the BSRTC coming back. Admittedly, it is just the media day, but I think we'll still encapsulate a lot of the things that make the BSRTC Pro Series so familiar to many spectators, and should be good fun. That.
Yeah, of course, huge series for us to broadcast. It's traditionally been our flagship series that we run. Yeah, I've done a whole season in BSRTC driving 2-3 years ago. Got to the showdown, and then unfortunately my new work employers, despite me organising it in advance, wouldn't allow me the Thursday evening available to race. So I was not a happy chappy having spent 8 months or whatever it was to qualify for the showdown, and then just having to step aside. But like I say, it's a pretty unique series in that it's running the Kia Optima, of course, front-wheel drive, kind of touring-esque car. Closest thing we've got on the service at the minute to, like a British touring car or something along those lines. And not, the most popular car in the series for sure, but it's really, gained a big following within the BSR, and we see some huge fields there. And the car really just generates some pretty crazy races.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's understandable why you were frustrated not getting into the showdown, because of course big prizes in the BSRTC. And of course, if you want to apply for spots, you can do so. I think we posted a fantastic meme. I love a good old Count Dookie meme earlier on our Facebook page. So there's a couple of links there to get involved in the series. And of course, if you just want to view it, then absolutely do tomorrow. Similar time to actually when this starts. Well, it would have started 10 minutes ago in 24 hours. So yeah, just on 24 hours away will be the media day that will be from Imola. Nicholas Rasmussen just approaching line. I believe this is an outlap, and well, judging by that line, taking it very wide, yeah, he's well, it was either an outlap or a very slow lap, but he's going for a fast one now, and could even get held up here. This could be problematic for Rasmussen, and yeah,
Oh.
that's the lap written off, and well, it's very frustrating losing the lap on the last corner. I'd say it's almost as frustrating losing it on the very first corner as well.
Yeah, so you spend that whole outlook, kind of, and
Oh
Simpson as
dear.
well having trouble with back markers as well. In fact, that might have been the same car, wasn't it? Because Simpson was running a few seconds behind Rasmussen, I think, as they came over the line. So, yeah, somebody out there isn't making friends for sure. But like you say, yeah, you spend the whole outlap psyching yourself up, ready for your, flying qualifying lap, especially on a long circuit like Suzuka, and it gets ruined even in turn one before with nothing to do with your own ability or anything. So for sure, Rasmussen and Simpson, as we saw then, super frustrated. But yeah, like I say, hopefully they've got time still to get another outlap and flying lap in at least. So hopefully they still have another opportunity.
Yeah, 3 minutes to go. So yeah, they'll get one outlap in, and then yeah, one flying lap because unlike the official series, they can complete the lap that they start once the checker flag comes out. As Matt Bunn is running a little bit wide there, you can see it was just a little bit wide into one of those verses, and it absolutely ruins your run through all the other ones. He's yet to put in a valid lap time. Not quite sure who's going to take it. I think Josh Rayfield won't be taking this start, despite him being formally in the session. But I think Matt Bunn and Josh Andrew will do, and that was well, I don't want to pick on anyone. It was absolutely Andrew's fault that he disrupted those two drivers' laps a few moments ago. But he's trying to put in a better lap time right now for the Excite Racing team. Well, at least he's got Excite on his livery on our overlay, for me at least. Still puts him down as a privateer. As, yeah, just running out the final few corners. I believe Simpson is not out on circuit at the moment, so he's not going to improve. But we have still got lap times from Ilbrink and Rasmussen being set. And I think Ilbrink, in fact, just coming to the line now, this might be an improvement. He set a purple sector 2, and generally it seems to be a pretty good lap from Paul Ilbing. He approaches line, probably doesn't need to improve, and
Oh,
well, he does by 0.3 of a second, put some distance between himself and the Apex Racing UK driver at the top.
yeah, it was interesting as well because we could see the sector breakdown at the bottom of the screen for Ilbrink there, and he actually didn't get a quickest personal sector for all of them apart from sector 2, which was the fastest for the whole session. So clearly that was the one that made the difference, and he was right there and thereabouts for all the rest. So yeah, 3/10 buffer over Simpson now. Obviously, who knows how whether Simpson had any more time in hand as he's say aborted his like final attempt or two. But yeah, Ilbrink now is secure in that pole position with the battle really for who's going to take that third spot to line up on grid. They're looking pretty close there between Rasmussen and Udoka, just under 3 attempts between the two of them.
Ilbing is, sorry, Simpson is on the lap. I don't know yet. Sorry, this is a replay. I was getting very confused there, but here he goes. It's not a Heikki Kovalainen crash.
No,
No,
just aborted.
yeah, didn't feels like he could improve. And yeah, goes back to the pit lane. Nicholas Rasmussen. Well, if he could get pole position, this would be quite mind-blowing, I must say. But he does improve, gets into the 49s just, and that should mean he starts in third position on the grid. Michael Docker, Trevor Clement, and Matt Bunn. And Paul Ilbrink. Oh dear, well, Docker's ruined his lap time. Needs to make sure that he doesn't ruin anyone else's. He does well to stop the car there.
And Matt Bunn's managed now to set a time as well. He was struggling actually, I think, to get a clean lap in, so he hadn't actually recorded a time the last time I looked. But at least he managed to tick that box and has finished out the session as he goes back to pit lane.
Yep, so that's now everyone back to the pits, but for some reason we still have to wait for the qualifying timer to tick down. Just got a couple more minutes, and we will be away here at Suzuka. Of course, very few rounds to go. Do you think the championship will be playing on Paul Ilbrink's mind whatsoever? Of course, very successful driver in you know, the iRacing special events, the World Championship events as well. But you know, this championship opening up for him a little bit, seeing that Bayman isn't here today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be critical if he wants to like say really try and challenge for the championship. It's going to be critical for him to just get 2 clean wins, isn't it? As I say, he's got Simpson really as his main challenger, and otherwise he just needs to make sure he cleanly gets through the traffic on the reverse grid for the start of race 2. So if he can get 2 race wins, then that's going to bring him to within 100 points of Berryman. And as you say, they've then got 2 rounds remaining. We've got week off next week, and then after that we're going to be at Nürburgring and then Alton Park for the final 2 rounds of the season. And like I say, Ilbrink then, if he just outscores Berryman, it doesn't necessarily need to be a huge amount, 50 points for a win. He may have a chance of getting his nose right in amongst that race again.
Yeah, because Simpson as well hasn't recorded a win, I think, so far this season, which is quite remarkable, seeing that he's been consistently kind of 3rd, 4th, 5th fastest driver out on circuit. Well, today it looks like he's going to be the 2nd fastest driver, and he really delivered on that one, I wonder. Just thinking about it, of course, we've got 2 BSR champions in the booth today, and yet those two, and of course Alex as well, contended. I think he'll be back actually for the BSR TC this season. And yet the 2 BSR champions are the 2 drivers who aren't World Championship Grand Prix drivers. But yeah, didn't know about that one. But yeah, Simpson will be trying to go for that win from the front row of the grid. You just let the time tick down for a little bit longer. And the drivers with the downforce levels as well, because you can do quite a few different things here at Suzuka. But that's going to be quite interesting, because whilst you've got those fast corners, you can be a sitting duck down the straights as well.
Yeah, for sure, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we saw Rasmussen not far off a pace. Same, to be fair, for Evdoka. You know, they're 2nd or less behind pole. Yeah, how much of an effort is it going to be for them to work that draft and keep in the fight? Obviously, they've got that huge run from Spoon Curve through 130 yard down to Casino Triangle to try and hold in the slipstream and make up all the time they lose, frankly, around the rest of the circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how long 3rd and 4th can hold in there for sure. You know, if they want to be sensible about things, they need to not squabble too much at the start and just try and run with Ilbrink and Simpson and see how long they can hang in there for. Right, so we can see the grid has been confirmed, and Paul Ilbrink, as we saw, lining up on that pole position in the end, 3 tenths and a bit ahead of Alex Simpson after aborting his final run. 3rd place lining up behind Ilbrink then is Nicholas Rasmussen, 6 tenths and a bit back. Michael Evdoka in 4th with Trevor Clement in 5th. Matt Bunn did get that time in 6th, followed by Josh Andrew in 7th. And Josh Rayfield is now showing as on the grid, but he didn't set a time in qualifying, I don't think. So he will be lining up in that 8th position. So that's an extra surprise driver at least.
And Josh Andrews on the grid as well. So 8 drivers. Good to see. We're about to get underway here for race 1 at Suzuka. And away we go. And it's a fantastic start from Ilbrink. Not a good start whatsoever for Simpson. He's going to lose 1 position, maybe even 2, as we see 3 wide, I think, for 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. But the 2 Fitzo Motorsport drivers just moving ahead. Button getting his nose in there, and round goes one of them. And collects Rayfield, I believe that was. And yeah, Clement then was the driver who went round. I thought he made contact with someone. Not quite sure.
Yeah, even looked like the leaders are struggling around as well. I'm sure I saw Ilbrink coming off turn 2 there, really struggling to keep the car under check. So it was kind of no surprise then that somebody through the field had an issue. But yeah, just unfortunate to collect Josh Andrew as well there. So yeah, I say appalling start from Simpson, as you said. So he's got everything to do now to get past Rasmussen as quickly as he possibly can if he wants to challenge Ilbrink for the race lead.
As Rayfield has a little bit of an off after passing Andrew previously. But yeah, here's Simpson then, wants to make this move as quick as possible. Rasmussen tends to run lower downforce than a lot of his rivals. You can see the drivers using a slightly skinnier wing with my eagle eye on that. As Simpson, though, relatively similar it looks like today. And, well, moves should be very possible around this circuit, but particularly at the end of this straight, going into 130R, you've got to be very bold to go for it. We could see side-by-side all the way through 130R with the downforce to power ratio of these cars. As Simpson just looks to the inside. We'll have to back out for now, but going into the Casio Triangle, will he go for the inside here? Simpson could really compromise their run, but Simpson really deep on the brakes and just about makes it. That's a nice move. Could be a sitting duck, though, down into turn 1.
Yeah, and great job from Rasmussen there not to run wide coming off the first apex. Gets a run now on Simpson as well, so he's going to challenge back into turn 1 as well. And in fact, it looks like he could already have a position made before they get to the braking zone. Is Simpson going to try and throw it in? He can't. So Rasmussen, yeah, gets a run off the final corner, and Simpson really is going to have to wait for that same spot again. He's going to probably have to wait for the run back down to 130R. But yeah, good move at the chicane as we saw, and say good job from Rasmussen not drifting off his apex and clipping the Willis as well.
Docker coming under a lot of pressure from Bun, who's had a very strong start to the race, really mixing it with these guys impressively for the CQR Club team. Of course, Docker was very impressive at Daytona on Monday. Unfortunately, couldn't quite deliver the result. Maybe his pace warranted, but still running in a decent 4th position right now, about 3/4 of a second off the podium places. It'll be 1.5 seconds out in the lead now, so that battling amongst Rasmussen and Simpson have really cost themselves a chance, maybe, because they're going to struggle to get back within the slipstream range now of the race leader. Still got Andrew and Rayfield driving out there. Clement seems to be well, either he's still tying back to the pits. I think he might be out of the race. In fact, sorry, he has disconnected from the session. So we are down to 7 drivers. Unfortunately, hopefully we'll see Clements back for race 2.
Yeah, so unfortunate there to say suffer that race ending damage right at the start. But Simpson this time hasn't got as close to Rasmussen as last time by. Is Rasmussen even going to need to defend into triangle? He doesn't. So yeah, Simpson perhaps we didn't really see it, but perhaps didn't get the run off Spoon Curve, and it's cost himself yet another lap. So this is just really allowing Ilbrink to try and stretch his legs up ahead. He's 1.6 seconds down the road from Rasmussen, and we can really see Ivdoka and Bun even hanging with the pace of Rasmussen and Simpson. So 2, 3, 4, 5 are all just trying to keep their claws desperately in. How far back is Ivdoka from Simpson? 1.2. So if he can keep that, then he's just got a little bit of toe still to pull him along that back straight.
I'll just take this opportunity to thank everyone who's tuned in for this race. 23 people watching, which, considering that there's only 7 drivers out there currently running, is very much appreciated. Of course, like we said, the BSRTC Pro Series starts tomorrow, and that will have far more drivers than this, and dare I say, will be far more action-packed, as, well, Docker's trying to prove me wrong there, as he loses a position to Bun. Of course,
Yeah,
if you haven't...
Sorry, Sam, it looks like Matt Bunn had an issue as well, though. So Matt Bunn's dropped back as well. So both Ivdoka and Bunn maybe having an issue both on the Degner curves. Here you can see Bunn there recovering. So yeah, Bunn lost it then on the exit of Degner 1. So quick, of course, into Degner 1. And if you don't get that line quite right, you've really got no chance at all to stop it into Degner 2. And then, yeah, a bit too keen to get going again with those hot tyres.
Yeah, you'll probably be regretting that we showed that one. So he drops back to see the... Yep. Well, no offense to Matt, but that was a much longer... Oh dear, well, he's actually had to quit back to the pits as Rasmussen under pressure from Simpson again. This time Simpson's going to go for the cutback. Probably the wise decision. And it just seems as though Simpson doesn't have the straight line speed. Like I said before, Rasmussen tends to run lower trim. And whilst that rear wing doesn't tell us everything, maybe he's running a little bit less drag down with the rest of the car. As Simpson goes down the inside, that's going to be very ambitious through the second part of first curve. He's going to have the outside for the first part of the S's, but the downforce of that F3 car might help Simpson as he goes off the circuit and does a bit of a last stroll down into the wall. He didn't seem too desperate to avoid that one, I must say. And Simpson retires back to the pits.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the replay there. Camera angle that I looked at, well, was that netcode contact or was it real contact? I don't know. It was looking like Rasmussen was trying to do a decent job of keeping that tight line with Simpson on the outside. But here we go. Let's see the replay then. Yeah, different camera angle. Perfect. Thank you so much, Kumo. So Simpson, yeah, has that dive up the inside into turn 2. Say initially it seemed like Rasmussen then on this next corner is going to keep quite a tight line. Let's have a look. Well, they got awfully close, but didn't really look like there was any real contact there. And Simpson just, yeah, as soon as he was off track, that was it. Just couldn't get the car stopped.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see him back for race 2. Although we're running out of drivers, we only had 8 to start with. We're down to 5 now, and unfortunately they're a little bit spread out. We've got Ilbrink and Rasmussen 3 seconds apart, fighting for the lead. Rasmussen seems to be, well, maybe upwards of half a second, probably a little bit less than that off the pace. And then we got Docker a further 9 seconds back, Mayfield another 10 seconds back, then Andrew another 9 seconds back.
Yeah, so those last 2 laps have just killed our commentary, I think, for the rest of the race. We were looking like we were going to have some decent little battles. Like, say, Rasmussen and Simpson were going hammer and tongs. If Doka and Bunn were hanging on in there and could have well continued to have battled for a 4th and maybe even had a sniff at 3rd. And all of a sudden, it's just a matter of, is anyone going to throw it off the road? Unfortunately, Ilbrink, as you say, 3 seconds ahead of Rasmussen, and otherwise then everyone else is just running around on their own in little test sessions, which is a shame. But could be a nice opportunity for Ivdoka to get a podium. You know, is that how many podiums has he had this season? It could be a nice surprise for him there. But yeah, who would have thought on this on one of the longest circuits that the guys see on this series, with one of the smallest grids, we've had so many contacts. That's a shame.
Yeah, we could have done with, I don't know, Oran Park, have a little bit of lapping in there or something. But unfortunately...
Maybe we should throw a safety car, get them all bunched back up
Well,
again.
do I have that power? Drum roll? No, I don't. Ah, dear. Well, that's disappointing. It's quite intimidating, actually, to have that power, because to be able to influence the race in that fashion, I don't know how they deal with it in real life motorsport, but there you go. Sorry, I feel like we've got time for tangents here.
Sounds good.
Not gonna lie, but are you a fan of Formula E whatsoever? Lee, do you follow it at all?
I am much more of a fan of Formula E now that they are able to use a single car for the race. Like
Yes.
like to me that seemed a pretty large flaw in why is Formula E there? Formula E is there for car manufacturers to promote how amazing their electric cars are, right? Yet for the first 3 seasons ? They were advertising that their electric cars weren't good enough to complete one short sprint race. So that seemed pretty mind-blowing to me. Much better looking this season, isn't it? You know, new car is obviously allowing them to get a proper race in. Bit gimmicky, of course, with the Mario Kart style. You know, one section of a track have a little boost, but it's different. It kind of sounds like it's working pretty well. It's they've kind of thought it through pretty good. And why not in a series where it really does have quite a different approach here? They're running these city tracks, bringing motorsport to people largely who probably aren't that interested perhaps in motorsport, or certainly haven't had the opportunity to go. You know, why not bring something quite different to them? And frankly, as long as in the end it produces good racing, we don't really need to worry about like the pure motorsport side of things. Like maybe I would advocate for F1 a little bit more. Formula E, I think, make it different. Try and get some different people in. You're in the city centre, get on with it. It's good.
Absolutely. Of course, us talking about Formula E has inevitably dropped our viewer count from 23 to 17, which we were asking for that, really. Very toxic topic. But on the topic of safety cars, Formula E are mind-bogglingly bad at safety cars. Quite often, I remember that you had that crash at Mexico earlier on in the season, as Josh Andrew has a little bit of an off. But you had that crash at Mexico, for example, earlier on in the season. And you had yellow flags initially being waved. Then it got escalated to a safety car about a minute later, and then a couple of minutes later, they decided it was a red flag incident, which is quite mind-blowing. The incompetence, seemingly, of the kind of chief marshal in terms of you know, signalling when the appropriate measures to prevent an accident, because you know that could have been quite bad. But yeah, the drivers now 1/3 into the race, a bit further than 1/3. Yeah, 11.5/30ths, because I can't be bothered to divide 30 by any more than that. As yeah, so 11.5 minutes in, and yeah, the gaps. Well, to be fair, Rasmussen's maintaining the gap to Ilbrink. I'll give him that. Only 2 tenths slower. Well, yeah, but 1.5 tenths slower on that last lap was Ilbrink. So with the with the mistakes that we saw Ilbrink make, I think a couple of weeks ago at Imola, maybe there could be some issues for him later on, which would give Rasmussen a chance. Unfortunately, Abduka, I think, has damage out there, so he's about 3 seconds off the pace when he'd normally be at least within a second. You can see that bent front wing for him, which, according last time at Donington, absolutely kills the car. Just side pod damage, apparently, takes about a second a lap off the car, which shows how it's slightly broken, which is part of the reason why we got this lower participation, because when you got a car which isn't necessarily the best fun to drive and doesn't necessarily produce the best kind of racing like maybe GT cars do, and it's not even realistic, you do question why run it. And hopefully iRacing will be able to address those issues soon.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it before. It is unfortunate because, you know, many people have been calling out for, you know, the F3 car and well, not Formula Renault anymore, is it? But the Formula Renault 3.5 car for a long, long time, and iRacing finally managed to deliver. You know, I mean, the F3 car, it's an iconic car. You know, the air restrictor on the side, you know, it's unique to that series. You see the F3 car and you know that's the category that it's running in. So it's great to see it on the service. I love the sound of them as well. It just reminds me of, you know, being at, you know, we're very fortunate in, you know, southern England, for instance, so many circuits around. That's the sound of cars running on circuits to me is F3 cars running around the track. And it's a real shame that after all this time of waiting for it, that it's just not quite there. But like I say, hopefully iRacing, I mean, I haven't really been following whether there's been any official acknowledgements from the staff, but hopefully iRacing have identified whatever the problem is and can actually get on with making it a bit more predictable and a bit more fun to drive, which has got to be the key. If it's fun to drive, then people will turn up, you know. And it'll be great to see, you know, a full grid of these cars, you know, 30, 40 cars plus, driving on a circuit like Suzuka. We will see class drivers that are wanting to drive it. You know, that we had a number of World Championship category drivers in this series at the start of the season. They want to drive this F3 car, and if it works, then hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, also part of the reason, not just the car not being very good, although I think that's certainly the primary reason. Of course, no kind of major series on iRacing for the single seaters now that the World Championship, yeah, the World
Yeah,
Championship solo drivers is at least the Porsche series, and of course we've also got the GTE series as well. I feel as though, you know, when you've got multiple dirt leagues, you know, Rallycross, Endurance League, Porsche League, you know, you could probably have like a Renault 3.5 league as well. I say league, so I mean like a proper world championship, with maybe like the F3 as the feeder car, but nothing like that seems to have been done by iRacing. Of course, iRacing have, you know, a lot of resources and stuff. So really, a private someone, I realize quite Neo have been the exception to that rule in terms of creating a world class championship on iRacing, not via iRacing themselves. It would be very difficult
Doka
to
in the
do that
pits.
for League. Yes, yeah, Doc going into the pits. Hopefully, he'll be returning to the track. Please return to the track, Michael. And yes, he does. In fact, so he's back out on the circuit and will now try to chase down Josh Rayfield. This could be a bit of fun for us over the next 14 minutes.
So I don't know if Samuli sees something in the event viewer for Evdoka, but I'm a bit confused that he has taken that pit stop because he wasn't really running any slower than Josh behind the last few laps that I saw. he had a massive gap and he's sacrificed third position. So let's see. Here we go. With Doka and coming to the Casino Triangle, is he just going to bin it into the wall or something then? Bit of curb, fine. Bit of curb, fine. And he's
I
just
think,
going to drive it straight in the pits from the looks of it. So, like, I know he was suffering with that front wing damage, but was Josh Rayfield going to get past him? Like, I'm not convinced that he was. So it'll be interesting to maybe hear from Michael later as to why he chose to put himself 10 seconds back. I mean, maybe, I mean, he's got 13 minutes, I guess. He can catch back up potentially. But if he puts it in the wall or something now because he's pushing on, then that's a podium spot gone.
yeah, no, he was losing about 3 seconds a lap. Was well, maybe not 3 seconds a lap, but yeah, probably about 2 to 2.5 seconds a lap with that damage. So he should be able to gain back the majority. That should be able to catch Rayfield by the end of the race. Will Rasmussen be able to catch up to Ilbing? I will big this up because this is potentially as exciting as it's going to get. But he was 8 tenths faster on
wow.
that last lap, was Rasmussen, than Paul Ilbing. It was his personal best lap time of the race. Admittedly, I think Ilbing made a mistake, but yeah, no worries. Hopefully, he'll be able to catch up to the current race leader, although on this lap, seemingly neutralizing that gap once again. Yeah, they're about halfway through the lap, and yeah, there's like some relatively similar for the pair of them. And of course, we have got a very hot temperature here, 43 degrees. In fact, it's increased. Has the temperature 21 degrees air, but it's clear, and it's 10:21 in the morning. So 43 degrees track temperature out there. And of course, with this famous Japanese tarmac, whatever that means, I believe it's the volcanic ash and stuff, isn't it, that they put into the tarmac, which makes it a bit more slick. And that combined with the high temperature will make it quite difficult for these drivers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel optimistic saying that iRacing have modelled volcanic ash into the tarmac that they're running on here. But sure, let's go for it. Just to come back to your point a minute ago about the iRacing official various World Championship series that we have now. I'm really not sure where I fall on the where's the single seater kind of issue. I mean, ultimately, you want people buying the car. You need the company to you need a sponsor to fork over the money for the prizes. So if people like F1 teams are heading off in other directions with Codemasters games and whatever else they've got going on, and they're not prepared to either invest or just hand the details over for the car or whatever it might be, then hey, Porsche comes along with an offer for the Cup car, and perhaps you got to go for it. So it's a tricky one. I bet iRacing have always struggled to sell sponsorship opportunities like that to F1 teams and things, where I bet they show the analytics of how many people buy the F1 cars and who regularly drives it and that sort of stuff, and it's just pales in comparison to other cars in the service. So it's kind of no surprise that GT cars are hugely popular in the service, so they make they've got to focus on those a little bit more maybe for the World Championship stuff. But for us in in Europe, it for sure we obviously see single seaters as the pinnacle, and so you would think that you want to see the supposed best road racers on iRacing driving the best, quickest, most powerful single seater in the service. But obviously we're waiting for the majority of the World Championship Series to get going this year. I believe I saw that the Dirt Series has already got underway, question mark. But
I think so, yeah.
but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those series develop. There's still lots of question marks about even schedules and rules, and nobody quite has got anything nailed down yet. So time will tell as to how those series all end up running.
Yeah, I do think though that they could run a single seater championship, maybe even. I know, maybe I feel like a thing that they could do a bit more often. I think which they could do potentially with IMSA and maybe even some kind of world championship, some world endurance championship type events, is just to run. Everyone's eligible for the select races. At the end of it, there's a big prize, and it basically mirrors kind of the real life series as much as possible, and just something annual like that for the single seater. Not a whole lot of, you know, prize money, but just get people encouraged to actually run the car. I think that would be something quite positive potentially for the single seater, and some kind of representation on a big scale, because let's face it, the single seaters, when there isn't a big field, it's not necessarily the most fun cars to run completely by themselves, and you're not guaranteed fantastic racing like you are with the GT Cups, and of course, as we saw with the World Championship, with the dominance of Martin Kroenke, with a few exceptions, of course. Many thanks to, of course, the Apex Racing UK drivers. You know, the driver can really dominate just due to the difficulty of driving them, and the setups as well, how they can vary so much. But hopefully we'll see some kind of representation in the future. But certainly the Porsche deal is good on the whole, and it should be absolutely awesome to watch when it comes about. So we just head into the final 8 minutes of the race. Gap out in the lead, pretty much maintaining. It'll bring 3.7 seconds ahead of Rasmussen. The gap for the final step on the podium though is closing in once again. Josh Rayfield, only 3 seconds ahead of Michael Evdoka. On that last lap, Evdoka was 2 seconds faster, and so should be onto the back of him by the certainly by the end of the race. Will be a case of him just executing a good pass safely.
Yeah, like I say, looks like you were right with what you were saying earlier on, and Michael knew what he was doing as well. As you say, he's very quickly closed onto the back of Josh now, hasn't he, for that podium spot. And as long as he can cleanly get past, then that's going to have turned out to have been the correct choice. As you say, significantly quicker last time by 2 seconds. What is it going to be on this one as Evdoka crosses the line? Yeah, 2 seconds again. So yeah, so that should be heating up nicely in the next lap or so. I dare say that Ilbrink has got things very much under control at the front, but nonetheless, Rasmussen is running a decent pace. So again, it's a shame almost that they had a little bit of issues at the start, where if Rasmussen had somebody's toe to hook into still, he could be really running considerably quicker lap times.
Of course, we will have a full reverse grid for race 2. We're not going to spin the wheel today. We feel as though it's not the best investment of time ever, let's face it, seeing that the smallest reverse grid is 14. So, yeah, you don't have to be a genius to realise what the outcome will be. So we'll hop straight over. Well, I say straight over. We'll have to wait 20 minutes for race 2. I feel like we're having a go at iRacing today, so I might just carry on having a go at iRacing whilst we've still got the opportunity, and whilst we're not on the iRacing esports network, which of course we are very thankful of to iRacing for allowing us to pop on that occasionally with the World GT Championship. I think we might be covering a couple of other things potentially soon on the esports network.
So we got a battle on track, by the way. Sam as Evdoka is driving straight past Josh Rayford for that third position, and ended up being a non-event, unfortunately. But you know, Josh is still there in the slipstream, so we'll see how long he can hang in there. But yeah, Evdoka able just to drive straight by just before they got to 130R. 5 minutes left. Oh, and before you start again, I was just going to say something along the lines of the views of Sam Fitzpatrick do not necessarily represent those of the company Apex Racing TV. You can continue.
I've genuinely forgotten the point I was going to make, and not due to yourself or the battle. I think I forgot just before then. I built it up.
I'm glad the battle saved you then.
Yeah, thanks for that. Well, of course, I've now dipped my dipped my head in humiliation regard.
No, I mean it's you know, most of us here watching, I'm sure, and certainly involved with Apex Racing TV. We've all been on iRacing for so many years now. Yeah, a lot of us have known each other on here for 5 or more years. We all love iRacing. You know, we turn our noses up generally at, you know, other attempts at racing games or simulations of things, and iRacing, you know, it's still in our minds is by far the best service at that, you know, we've got access to. It's a shame maybe they don't have, you know, a more similar competitor to maybe push them along
Mm.
that tiny bit more. But as you say, esports generally are obviously really kicking off in the last 3-4 years, especially with seeing that starting to come to sim racing more and more. I mean, the Porsche sponsorship of the World Championship Series of iRacing is huge. You've got manufacturer backing of an esports event. I mean, I wonder how many more opportunities like that are going to start developing, where it's a manufacturer sponsoring it rather than a simulation tool or whatever other companies we've got doing it. So I really hope that I hope a couple of things with the Porsche series, especially. I hope they get the rules right, generate good, entertaining, fair racing for the racers and for the viewers, and then hopefully Porsche and other manufacturers will look back at the year and see the value in it, and really kind of push on from there and continue to take steps forward. It's a huge opportunity for iRacing, and I'm sure they're taking it seriously. But I think we're all just crossing our fingers for what they actually present. We still it's pretty crazy that we don't really know what's happening in Porsche WCS, even though it was originally supposed to have started this weekend or next
Oh,
weekend,
really? Wow. Okay.
and nobody really knows what's going on. So hopefully they're much more organised in the background than it seems.
Wasn't it? Also, just before I make this point, thanks to everyone again for tuning in. I'm not quite sure why you're still here, to be honest, because let's face it, there's only 5 cars out there currently. Race 2 should be good, though, so certainly being back for Race 2 when we have the reverse grid should be fantastic. But certainly thanks for carrying on watching us. And I haven't forgotten my point. No, sorry. There might be reverse grids, I heard, for the Porsche says, or is that complete
Nothing,
incorrect?
nothing is yet confirmed,
Okay,
and any other information that we may already know about, we don't know anything.
okay.
Yeah, we have nothing to share, but yeah, nothing's been confirmed, is my understanding for sure.
No, it'd be fantastic if they had a reverse grid. It'd be fantastic to see RaceSpot try to rival our reverse grid presentation, to be honest, with the Wheel of Fortune theme tune. And if they stole it, no doubt we'd be heading off to courts or something to see them for that one. Um, But no, to be fair, RaceSpot are a fantastic broadcasting company. I'm sure they'll do a very good job of the Porsche series as we head into the final. It's not gonna be the final lap. We've got 1 minute 5 to go. So I'm sure you can see on the screen. Well, still got 0.3 of this lap to go. So we will be able to force one more unless there's a mutual um,
Yeah,
agreement from
Rasmussen and Ilbrink having a bit of
Rasmussen.
communication. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think so. I don't think Nicholas has won a round so far this season. So if it presents itself, even if it's a completely unjustified win, no offense to Nicholas, I think he'll take it with both hands out there. But it looks as though there's not going to be any attempted agreement between the two of them. So we'll head on to lap 17, which should almost certainly be the last.
Oh, and I hear damage for somebody as well. I heard a bit of contact there somewhere. We can see who's it ahead on track. Is that Josh
Andrew.
Andrew? Yeah, with damage on that front wing, so he is suffering on just trying to complete the laps. Doesn't get in the way of Rasmussen too much, looks like. So that was good to see. But yeah, like I say, one last final lap. Perhaps Samuli, we'll see. Let's go on board with Ilbrink if we can, just for the remainder of the lap, and watch him take the flag as he comes up through Dunlop and heading now towards Degner 1. Say super quick here and turning down one gear. It sounded like he's taking it very steady, to be fair. Down into Degner 2. That's where we saw Matt Bunn have his spin earlier on. Hairpin coming up, so a little jink to the right. Normally hard on the brakes. Quite different lines you can take through Hairpin. I prefer that sort of tighter line that Ilbrink seems to take there, but you can square it off as well. All the way flat, all the way now until we get up to Spoon Curve. Cracking a double apex left-hander. Again, super quick entry, and then sort of mid-corner, you're slowing the car down, running out onto that outside curb. Very late apex here, and it just drifted out. But yeah, Ilbrink is just absolutely cruising around. It looks like just making sure of it. Rasmussen's dropped back another second or so on this lap. I wonder if that was from Josh at the start. 130R, of course, as you said earlier on, Sam, it's not really a corner in these cars. How tight is he? Yeah, that's crazy. Not even barely getting half the circuit out as he went round. Casino triangle, plenty of curb normally on the first one, a little bit more careful on the second one, and drive out the corner. So yeah, not a representative on board really of a real flat out, but there's Paul Ilbrink back in his 50 points for the win in race 1.
Yep, that'll be his 4th win of the season, I believe, with Nicholas Rasmussen. Sorry, no, 3rd win of the season. I think that's his 3rd consecutive win as well in this championship.
Yes.
After winning the 2 races at Donington. So certainly the man in form, the man to beat. Nicholas Rasmussen, part of a good challenge there. If it weren't for that early fights with Alex Simpson, maybe he could have offered a bit more of a resistance to the race winner. Michael Evdoka will be next to cross the line, but Josh Andrew has already crossed the line, so it's just Evdoka and Rayfield. 12 seconds separates them, so Evdoka's been able to turn a 12-second deficit into a 12-second surplus by the end of the race, and could be a decent challenger for race 2. I think he's a little bit off the pace, unfortunately, is Michael, but that's his first podium of the season. So well done to the Texans Pitstone Motorsport driver, as he absolutely humiliates himself by crashing into the pit wall. So we can now go through the final standings, and like I've already said, Paul Ilbrink with his 3rd consecutive win in the World F3 Championship. Nicholas Rasmussen finished in 2nd position with Michael Evdoka rounding out the podium. Josh Rayfield was in 4th with Josh Andrew, 1 lap down in 5th. The retirees ended up being Alex Simpson, who crashed in the S's. Matt Bunn, can't actually remember where he crashed in. Dignity. Although that wasn't the killing of that car, was it? I think.
I think so. He hit the. Pretty sure he hit the barrier very hard, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was another retirement with Trevor Clement, the final retirement. He actually got wiped out on turn 1, even. So. Yeah, not good for Trevor out there. Hopefully he'll be back for race 2, which will be a full reverse grid. So certainly do tune back in. I believe it will be a 4-car reverse. I don't think Josh Andrew will be eligible for that one, but hopefully will be an entertaining race. We might even have Marco Namella joining us as well for the 2nd race, so that should be good. Hopefully you will tune in about 20 minutes time for the 2nd race of the evening here at Suzuka.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hi there, I'm Richard Jobling, Senior Software Engineer here at iRacing. I'd like to show you some of the work that we've been doing to improve the collision and the damage in our sim. One of the major changes we've made is how our collision systems work. The old system stored the track as parametric surfaces, and the cars were made of collections of spheres. As the cars moved around the track, we would recompute planes using the track surfaces, and then test those against the spheres. This worked well for spheres, but was too specialized to adapt to our shapes. So for the new system, we've built new high-resolution meshes for each track. This is more efficient and gives us a lot more flexibility for the car shapes. The new mesh incorporates all the track features our guys work so hard to replicate. Things like curb geometry and changes in the surface material are all baked into the mesh. We've also taken our laser scan data and applied that to the mesh. And since the mesh is so high resolution, we capture all the detail that's necessary so that the tracks are just like the real thing. With our new mesh, we can now represent cars using smooth, convex hulls, which grouped together form the chassis, the bodywork, and all the other parts of the car. The new shapes are a much closer fit to the shape of the real car. During impacts, the shapes can deform according to the damage, and eventually they can break off as separate objects. All the parts, like wings, hoods, and wheels, can also hang from their joints, flapping and vibrating until they eventually snap off. All these changes are going to add a whole new level of realism to our races. If you want to find out more, please visit iRacing.com and check out my blog post for lots more details.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I'm the Vice President of Art and Production here at iRacing. This damage project that we've been discussing is certainly a project that involved all hands on deck to pull off. We've got a rather sizable number of cars in our portfolio, and not all of these cars have been built with this dynamic damage system in mind. So what we had to do is one by one go through our race cars, and we had a team of 3 artists, a highly technical modeler, our technical art director, and our associate art director. All took on each car one at a time, and the work involved was researching that car, researching what would happen to that car if it were in a crash, depending on the forces involved in the crash, how severely it would be damaged, what parts might come off, what those pieces might look like when they're removed, what it would look like where the car has areas exposed that were previously covered by bodywork. So they had to do a lot of modeling to each race car, and they had to do a lot of work to essentially set up how the car would react to forces. So essentially setting the strength of the materials. What kind of force would it take to rip off the side pod, for example? Or under what circumstances would this nose cone get ripped off of a car? Or under which would it remain, but just be badly damaged? But all said, it's been a lot of work, but seeing the car models interact with the physics system and the new crash dynamics is really exciting and really cool to see, and definitely makes all that hard work worth it.
Hi, my name is Jose Diaz. I'm a visual effects artist at iRacing. I specialize in particle effects ranging from fireworks to water fountains, debris, crash, impacts, all in the service of improving the driving experience. So you have the main sort of new damage model that Richard's been working on. So that takes into consideration all the mounts and the chassis from the cars and which materials they are. And he's making all the calculations that tell you, like, okay, it got hit from this one side and the strength of that impact is this certain amount of values. If you hit something, that means that this mount gets off, something breaks. This gets added on top of that to sort of complement what is happening there with things that you would see in real life when a car crashes. So typically in a car crash, you will see all these little particles of dust, metal, scratches that will take all that force and momentum and kind of explode in a way. And it's all being driven by how fast the car was coming, how hard the impact was against what. That will give you that sense of like, man, that person really crashed hard. for, oh, it was just a small bump.
Hi, my name is Chris Lurch. I'm one of the vehicle dynamicists here at iRacing. Our role in the collision project is to tune the collision properties of each and every car to ensure that they behave in wrecks as a real car would. And we've spent quite a bit of time going through literature from the automotive industry on the subject to make sure that we have panels that deform the way they're supposed to, both temporarily and permanently, that pieces that don't deform but rather just break at appropriate times in appropriate ways. The cars are absorbing energy the way they should and aren't sort of bouncing off the walls in crazy ways. The major properties that we look at are stiffnesses, which is how much a piece of the car deforms when a load is applied to it. And then we look at a couple of limits. One is the force limit beyond which the piece deforms permanently. And then the second limit that we look at is the brake limit, the force limit beyond which the piece will simply break. And then we also will look at damping, which is how much the piece absorbs energy versus how much it takes like a spring and can absorb as potential energy and then rebound back out like a basketball would.
Welcome back to the World F3 Championship on Apex Racing TV. Once again, I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me is Lee Thompson with Sam Kumo on the cameras. And we're here at Suzuka once again. And after a small reverse grid there, Lee, hopefully we'll be in for slightly more entertaining second race. And could be quite interesting because you got a slightly, muddled up field, and whilst it seemed like Paul Ilbrink was the fastest driver in that first race, I think he's going to have some good opposition from Rasmussen and Evdoka.
Yeah, could do. I feel like field maybe not the word to use to describe the cars that we're going to have on track. But yeah, bad news, guys. 4 cars in the session, I'm afraid. So, I mean, it only takes 2 cars to make a race, so you never know. Maybe Evdoka and Rasmussen can have a good old battle. But otherwise, Ilbrink's going to scamper away at front, and Josh is going to be at the back, I'm afraid. We were just saying off air before we came on, if any of them make contact together, oh my god, we're going to throw a fit. 4 cars on grid at Suzuka. And if I was about to say Josh hasn't joined the grid, but he has, fortunately. So yeah, Josh Rayford on pole, Evdoka second, Rasmussen third, Ilbrink on fourth. Lights are about to go out.
Here we go then. Away we go for race 2. Not a good start whatsoever for Rayfield. Really good start there from Rasmussen. He might be able to go up into the lead. It's 3 wide going for the lead, going into turn 1. And Docker, just about goes down the inside. And well, we saw the lights in front of our eyes there as Docker moves up into the lead. So nice move there. Rayfield got to the back, which was probably quite generous from him to be quite so courteous through the first couple of corners there. So it's Docker, Rasmussen, Ilbrink, Rayfield through the S's section here at Suzuka. And, well, we're joking how this might not be a great race. These next couple of laps could be very entertaining.
Yeah, I reckon so. Like I say, a lot of tow for these guys at the back of the circuit on that long straight. So Rasmussen and Evdoka can get a clean second half of the circuit. Don't squabble here. Oh, it's Ilbrink, sorry, isn't it? Ilbrink behind Rasmussen, my apologies. So if Ilbrink just maybe hangs behind Rasmussen just for a few more corners, gives Rasmussen a bit of tow to Evdoka, then these 3 guys are going to be squabbling nicely as they come out of spin.
Yeah, here we go. Going into speed corner, they'll all kind of group together. It's just where Rasmussen can get the move done. We saw going into 130, if you make, into the Casio Triangle, if you make the move into that corner, you can be a bit of a sitting duck down into turn 1 on the following lap. So you've got to be very careful where you pick your moves. Evdoka and Rasmussen separated by just 0.2 of a second as they go into 130. No problem with the turbulent air. And Rasmussen might go for the inside here. Evdoka not defending too hard. Will he try to keep it round the outside? No, he's going to try to get the cutback, but just missing out on the apex there. And all of a sudden, Ilbrink, I think, is going to be straight past the Brit as almost pulls alongside. Now we'll get back into the slipstream. We'll pull out once again, but Evdoka with a small slipstream from Rasmussen, he will probably be quite hopeful that the Pitstone Motorsport driver holds on second place for a little bit longer. But Michael, I must say, unlike him, judging by what we saw in the Euro V8s on Saturday, for him to give up positions, but credit to him, he appreciates that he's a little bit slower than these guys and lets them go without too much of an issue.
Yeah, I think he's seen that. He's just got a third place on the cards and didn't want to risk it. I think, as you say, the move from Rasmussen on Evdoka didn't defend at all. Didn't really put himself in a position to try and get a drive off the chicane either to come back at him, so he just allowed that place. And then we could see how much quicker Ilbrink was through that chicane at the end of the lap, and yeah, Ilbrink and even Evdoka, I reckon, had a little lift at the end of the straight into turn one, because as you said, he did have a little bit of slipstream from Rasmussen, but Ilbrink still managed to drive past. So we did see then that, I mean, we don't know how easy Ilbrink was taking it in race one, but Rasmussen and Ilbrink, as you were pointing out during race one time, were pretty evenly matched on lap times. So I dare say Ilbrink will get past now in the tow, but can Rasmussen then hang with him in the tow himself?
Yeah, Rasmussen usually quite a these guys are very respectful of one another, of course, and Nicholas usually doesn't fight too many battles which aren't in his best interest. But he may as well fight this one because this is for the lead. So I'll say there's really anything else to race for out there. As Rasmussen leaves the inside open, Ilbrink will go for the inside hit. Rasmussen will try to get the cutback. This is the tactic that he used against Simpson. And you know what? That's a really good line there from Rasmussen, and he's going to get a fantastic drive off the corner. Now, getting back into the slipstream, Ilbrink defending right to the pit wall. Rasmussen had half an opportunity to go down the inside there, but decides to go to the outside instead. And this is a similar circumstance where Rasmussen and Simpson made contact in race one. Has to go all the way around the outside. This could be a fantastic defensive maneuver here from Nicholas Rasmussen. He has the inside for the S's, and that is a superb move there, having the confidence on the slightly dirtier part of the circuit to really stick it out there and repels the attack from the Radicals online driver.
And it was interesting to see the intelligence of Ilbrink behind, actually. So, as you say, they're running side by side all the way through. They came to the exact point on the circuit, in the exact situation where Rasmussen and Simpson came together in race one, and Ilbrink for sure backed right out of it before the corner and just gave the corner to Rasmussen to make sure he wasn't going to risk any kind of real contact or netcode contact, which it looked like it was in race one, and made sure he had the opportunity to make a safer move next time. So Ilbrink knows that, you know, he should be getting 50 points for the race win in this race as well, and he's absolutely not going to allow any risks to upset that. Evdoka, thanks to the little bit of squabbling earlier in the lap, is still hanging with these guys just about 1.1 behind, so he's going to get a little bit of tow down the straight. But yeah, when is Ilbrink going to look to make this move again? And Josh Rayfield crashed in that lap one, or was it lap two on this count? Lap two, crashed in lap two, went to the pits and is sat there.
Yes, doesn't look like he's going to get back onto the circuit as Ilbrink this time has to go the long way round. Could this be advantageous for him? He's going to get the cutback, but Rasmussen naturally, I think, just takes a really tight line through the first part of that corner. And, well, he should be okay this time. I always think we're going to see a fantastic Fisichella versus Raikkonen move down to the inside. And, well, that's just how Fisichella was driving, I must say, trying to break the toe. Raikkonen was having it none of it that day. I was 4 at the time, by the way, just to you know, make our fellow Apex Racing TV commentators feel that bit older. So yeah, Ilbrink half a second behind Rasmussen. Yeah, Evdoka just dropping back. He really does need these guys to fight a little bit more if he's going to stand a chance in this one. But well, the longer this goes on, the better chance I think it is for Rasmussen, at least, because eventually he'll be able to wisen up to any attack from Ilbrink and might be able to really stand a chance in this race across Bay early stages still. Lee, are you still with us? Ah, well, if this wasn't bad enough already, well, we've just lost Lee Thompson as well. It's absolute car crash right now, on and off the circuit, I must say. We are seeing all over the shop right now. But hopefully we'll see Lee back very soon as that support the lead continues. And yeah, so Ilbrink, will he go for the inside this time? Yes, he will. And, well, will he actually commit to the move? Because we've seen the run from Rasmussen. Well, you know what? That's a much better line for Ilbrink this time, and he's already got a 0.4 of a second gap. This should be it for Paul Ilbrink. He'll just have to make sure of it going down to turn 1, because Rasmussen is quick down the straight, so we'll close. As you can probably see visually, the gap about halving, but it's nowhere near enough, and that could be the race decisive points. So Ilbrink, yeah, moves up into the lead. Question is now, can Rasmussen keep up with them to the well, how long can Rasmussen keep up with them? Docker closing the gap a little bit. But yeah, these three remaining about per. Of course, we've already talked about it, I must say, but if you haven't heard enough of it already, we do have the BSRTC Pro Series starting tomorrow at 8:15. Will be race 1 for the media day from Imola, which always provides very entertaining races, as we saw in this series a couple of weeks ago. So that one should be very good fun. So certainly tune in for that. Of course, should be big grids as always. And then, well, actually on Apex Racing TV, unfortunately, we don't really have much going on for the weekend or on Friday. So next up will be Monday, where we actually won't even have the World GT Championship. So we'll have the Masters though, the MX5 Amateur Cup, whatever it's called. And then on Tuesday as well, we'll have the Masters and also the Rickmatech Sports Car Series. And then Wednesday, of course, if you haven't already caught it, and of course, don't leave this race because it's still pretty entertaining with Rasmussen staying very close. He will try to get the cutback, but of course, next Wednesday we'll have this championship. No, we won't have this championship, but we'll have the ILMS, which is always very entertaining. Back to the lead anyway. Ilbrink having to defend from Rasmussen. Now, will Rasmussen go to the inside this time? No, there was a concrete wall in the way, so he goes to the outside instead. And we'll try to muscle his way around the outside wall. The 71 car, he had a lot of pace around this line on the last couple of laps. And once again, Nicholas Rasmussen pulls off a fantastic move on Paul Ilbrink to retake the lead here at Suzuka. It's a nice job there from car 71. And, well, this fighting just keeps on inviting Avdoka back into this battle. And this is turning into a nice trio battle for the race win.
Yeah, thank God for these three guys giving us a race. We got 3 cars on track, and we've got 3 cars in the camera shot. What's the gap? 1 second between the 3 of them. So yeah, thanks very much, guys. We're appreciating this for sure. Rasmussen, Ilbrink, Avdoka, all gonna have the Oh, Rasmussen runs wide in the hairpin. Gonna get the better run off the corner though. They gave Ilbrink a good sniff. Oh no, commentator's curse.
Oh.
Michael Avdoka puts it in the wall hard. He's going to get 3rd position regardless, so it's not the end of the world from his point of view. But for sure, we were enjoying these guys all running nice and close together. So here we go into the hairpin, just locking the rears, I guess. No, so under power, big tank slapper into the wall we go.
Side by side for the lead. Here comes Ilbrink again. Rasmussen will try to keep it around the outside, likes those outside lines. Don't dip a wheel onto the artificial grass, otherwise that will spin these two into one another, which we really don't want right now. Ilbrink muscles his way around the outside, there's almost contact, and that was, once again, fantastic defensive driving there from Nicholas Rasmussen. He's just seems to be very aware of the width of his car, and he's leaving absolutely no extra space, but at the same time, very fair driving from him at the moment as he holds on into turn 1 once again as we head on to lap 7.
Yeah, and again, Ilbrink just completely bailed out of that move at the end, just backed away completely, made sure that there was no further risk and that he had, again, another opportunity to make the move further on. So then there were two basically. So if Doka now 10 seconds behind, he's got severe damage, so he's going to continue to lap much slower. Probably wants to come in the pits and give himself a bit more of a fun remainder of the race, so at least it drives normally. Rasmussen, as you say, doing a cracking job coming back at Ilbrink those couple of times. He really likes, as you were saying, Sam, that move around the outside and hanging on in there through the S's or through 130R as we saw last time by. And it's what I was hoping from race one. We saw a pretty similar pace from him really, but just Rasmussen wasn't close enough to ever put any pressure on Ilbrink. He really was trying to get on the power sharpish there. We could see him getting crossed up on the steering, trying to keep the car in check.
Yeah, we're going to see a carbon copy, I think, of the fast few laps going into 130R and the Cassier Triangle once again. Also, is it called the Cassier Triangle? Or is it...
as far as I know. Yes, Cassio Triangle is my understanding of a name, and then you got the last curve after that. So here comes Ilbrink, then down the inside of 130R again, like you said. Got the run this time. This has got his nose ahead. Rasmussen gonna have a dive up the inside. It'd be brave if he does. Thinks better of it, and just needs to stay in the slipstream for this drive down the front straight.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good run. Far better than the run he had a couple of laps ago when Ilbrink took the lead. Now, will Paul try to break the draft? No, not too much. I think he feels quite secure. The gap going down to 0.2 of a second, 1.5 tenths of a second, 1/10 of a second. Rasmussen trying to put off his rival a little bit, but Ilbrink, of course, very established driver, not going to fall for that one. And well, a couple of laps ago, of course, Rasmussen did lose the lead, but was quite happy to stay within about 0.6 of a second through the first half of the lap and brought himself back an opportunity and retook that race lead for a little bit. So didn't count him out just yet, but that's a really good S section there from Paul Ilbrink, and maybe just starting to break the draft enough to feel that bit more comfortable out in the lead.
Yeah, it looks like Ilbrink trying to put the pin down or pull the pin and really break away. So fastest sector for him is sector 1, fastest sector of a race sector 2, fastest sector of a race sector 3. So yeah, he's trying to break away, but Rasmussen doing a decent job. 8 tenths, like you say, it's a little bit more than what he had that last time round where he did manage to come back. Looks like Adoka's running at an okay pace, 52.3 last time, so maybe he's not got the worst damage that he could have been suffering with. Sector 4, bad from Ilbrink, not a personal best, let alone a fastest of the race. So slacking on sector 4 there, Paul. Also got 8 tenths, so again, it's not going to be enough, but it's enough for Rasmussen to get some effect. Though, I don't know, surprising, 8 tenths back, and he wasn't really actually closing. I'm surprised that maybe that's that difference in aero package that they've chosen with their car setup. But yeah, it was just holding at 8 tenths, wasn't it?
Yep, but good exit from that chicane. That's definitely his best corner of the circuit for Rasmussen. Gained about 1/10 of a second. But yeah, once again, he's that gap absolutely maintaining. So he's just outside the slipstream. I think Pete Bayman let us know after the first round of the championship that I think 0.6 of a second really where the slipstream takes hold. So he's just outside of that at the moment. It's going to have to... Nicholas Aston, of course, a very accomplished driver himself. These have got to be some of his best laps ever, I think, just to close that gap back within the necessary distance. But Ilbrink just so good through that first S section. Just seems to take slightly tighter lines, I'd say, which really helps him on the exits. But yeah, these two absolutely driving without mistake as it stands.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Interesting that it's such a short gap required. Well, not a short gap required. Like short gap until the toe drops away. 6 tenths seems crazy when we see so much more in other cars, and it just shows maybe how how small of a car it is, how little rear wing they can run, and it's not they're not punching this big hole through the air like a GT car or something. But yeah, 6 tenths and no toe. That's a little bit on the harsh side. As I said, Rasmussen this time matching him sector for sector. Really, he was 8 tenths down last lap, and he's bang on that 8 tenths mark last time by. Super close to him. I'm looking at the sector times. 300ths between him sector 1, 1100ths sector 2. Then Rasmussen was 600ths quicker sector 3, 1/100th difference in Sector 4, and we're about to find out Sector 5. So, yeah, Rasmussen absolutely on it, and again, much quicker through the triangle. I wonder whether some of that lack of toe down that back straight just again shows that maybe Rasmussen's running that a little bit more downforce, and that's why he's quickest through the slowest section, or one of the slowest sections of the circuit. And it was 100th between him and Sector 5, 300th between him and Sector 6.
Yeah, he's certainly. Oh well, Blocker coming into the pit, so he'll go for the fast lap. I'm not sure if you get a bonus point for the fast lap. That gives us a bit of a topic to talk about. Are we going to talk about it? Whilst this battle's potentially going to have. We'll talk about it briefly. Fastest lap points in Formula One League. Fan of it?
I think as tends to be the case with me, I'm gonna hedge my bets and say let's wait a few races and see whether this was a good idea or not. I think for race 1 for sure, it sounded like, surprisingly, I was pretty surprised. It sounded like the drivers were pretty excited about it. You know, we heard a number of drivers at the end of the race go, "Oh, what's the time? What should I do? Was it Bottas even that was like talking about coming into the pits and like risking something going wrong at the pit stop just so he could try and get that extra point and still have the race win?" So I'm a bit surprised that, you know, the drivers were and it's not just like midfield cars, you know, that the drivers in the top teams were looking to take that risk and go for it. I mean, we've heard of that in the past. You know, Vettel is one that obviously is known for, you know, enjoying the statistics of Formula One and things. So he often made a real effort to try and bang in a fastest lap, so he would go down in the record books as having the fastest lap for that race, things like that. But yeah, this extra point, yeah, does seem to have the potential to create that extra element to it. Whether that novelty is going to wear off pretty quick as we go through the season, we'll see. But certainly for race 1, like I say, the drivers seemed well up for it.
Yeah, it worked okay, didn't it, Australia? And it was quite exciting in those final 5 laps or so. But yeah, personally, I'm not a massive fan of it. I feel did we talk about this last week? Or did I talk about? I feel like I may have talked about it to someone else.
Probably another time, I think. Yeah.
Maybe with Marco and the Sim Racers World GT Championship, which of course is also tomorrow, which I completely forgot about when promoting a few of the series earlier on. But that is tomorrow as well, alongside the PSRTC Media Day. Yeah, personally, I like my F1 extremely dull, and I don't like all these, you know, potentially entertaining parts to Formula One. Really needs to be as boring as possible, and well, that's what F1 is really. But no, I'm slightly reluctant about it, but yeah, it was a bit exciting to be there in those closing stages. But would like it that maybe the midfield car. I'd even say if you're classified, maybe you're eligible for it, because even if, let's say, someone has an absolutely awful race, at least you got this random dude out on circuit putting on fresh tyres every few laps, just trying to go for a fast lap for, you know, the hell of it, and maybe it causes him to crash into like a leader, do a bit of an Ocon or something like that. You know, I'd like to make it just so there was. Well, it wasn't Ocon's fault, it was Verstappen's fault. But, oh, well, we can talk about that. I don't know if any Dutch people are listening, and I don't want to be, you know, stereotypical to Dutch people or anything, but judging by YouTube comments, they don't tend to understand sarcasm too well, and can get quite offensive. So, personally, I thought that one was 95% Verstappen's fault for turning in. When there was a car on the inside. But...
Yeah, you're incorrect.
Oh wow! Okay, here we go.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. You know, you sit there and go, "Oh, you crashed. Okay, well, it was a lapped car. Why did you take a risk?" Like we've seen with Ilbrink here. To be fair, you know, we've seen Ilbrink, you know, back out of several of his moves with Rasmussen because he's playing the percentages and is making sure he's not taking a risk. Again, you can look back at that 2020 and stuff and say, "Well, what was the risk?" But you know, leading up to that event, who would have, you know, what were the odds of Ocon trying to race Verstappen around turns 1 and 2? I forget which one it was. It was kind of entry of turn 2, I guess, wasn't it? Like, you know, what was he even doing? It's not like he was trying to. Well, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, he wasn't trying to unlap himself, right?
Yeah, it
Verstappen
was.
Oh, it was that way around.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So you, of course, you can unlap yourself. Yeah, that's perfectly part of the rules of F1, but you've got to do it without risking the leader. And it's not like Verstappen did something crazy and dived back up the inside or anything like that. Verstappen was just trying to take his race in line. And if you're going to unlap yourself, that's cool, but you can't affect the line of the lead car. So yeah, it's just, I'm a big fan of Ocon. You know, he comes across well. He's always got a big grin on his face. It seems like a bit kind of Ricardo-like when he's in interviews and things. Cracking driver, cracking speed, but just absolute kind of red mist there, I think. You watch stuff like the Netflix documentary and things like that. Of course, Ocon and Verstappen have this huge history going back like a decade since they were little kids. And I bet if it wasn't Verstappen, I bet if it was another driver, Ocon would never have put himself in that position.
Yeah, I think maybe for Ocon in that situation, you think, well, either I make this move on my arch nemesis and look really cool, or I take him out and he doesn't win the race. Very cool either way, really, for him. So, but no, from my perspective, I remember that fortunately they released on the onboard footage of the kind of 2 laps preceding it. So I think Ocon came out of the pits on fresh tyres. I think immediately Verstappen was on his tail, so he let Verstappen pass. Then for the next couple of laps, he followed Verstappen, kind of realised that he was a bit faster, so then got close, going down the main straight, activated DRS, and then kind of the moment where I stop having sympathy for Verstappen is when he defends going into turn 1, kind of puts his car in the middle of the circuit, forcing Ocon to go to the outside. And admittedly, really, Ocon should back out of it at that point. You know, he's only going to have that pace advantage for a handful more laps. May as well just back out of it for now, considering that he was never going to score points in that race anyway. But then, of course, yeah, went round the outside, and I just thought the fact that he was alongside for such a long period of time, Verstappen in that situation should have just, you know, just avoided at all risk. He could have lost 5 seconds, you know, in that situation, and would have been absolutely fine for the rest of the race. He could have had a spin, and had it not been for the contact, he would have still been able to overtake Hamilton, of course, for the race win. And yeah, on that occasion, I just thought he just complete kind of just such stubbornness that he couldn't be put off his racing line because he was the race leader, when really you gotta have some pragmatism and realize that kind of it's best to back out in that situation. But undoubtedly, Ocon did not shower himself in glory on that day. Of course, hopefully we'll be back in F1 very soon.
Yeah, what a travesty that is. How on earth
Yes.
Formula One has allowed Ocon not to be on the grid? Like, for example, Bernie Eccleston, like, well and truly glad he's gone. Like, obviously done amazing things for F1, you know, building it up and establishing it. Last 15 years or whatever, it's you know, felt pretty bad. However, Eccleston would never have allowed Ocon to not be on a grid, I don't think. You know, there's so many stories of Eccleston generating driving moves and making sure the right people got into the right places at the right time, and for Ocon to miss out is pretty crazy. It was interesting watching, of course, the win for Bottas in race 1 and Ocon there in the garage, you know, being the team player, smiling away, and cursing Bottas for having such a start to the season, because that's the seat obviously that he should be, you know, taking over next year, and he probably should take Bottas' seat next year. But hey, if Bottas continues the performance as he did, or Hamilton doesn't perform, depending on which way you want to look at it, I've heard contrasting views as to how good Bottas actually was. Then yeah, Ocon will be really hung out to dry.
Yeah, the mysterious floor damage, which, as far as I'm aware, no one knows how on earth he picked that up. It's quite mind because
not the first time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know how on earth he got that one, but yeah, undoubtedly, you know, it was partly down to the floor, but you know, Bottas won it going into turn 1 because, let's face it, Hamilton could have had twice the horsepower and still would have struggled to overtake Bottas out on circuit, with the difficulty of overtaking at at Australia. So yeah, good performance from Valtteri. Personally, I'd love to see an Ocon Hamilton, you know, a rivalry, because I think I must say a big Hamilton fan, but I do think Ocon would have the potential to really force Hamilton out of that team. And I think for the soap opera and for the entertainment of Formula One, I think it'd be good to see kind of the apprentice kind of shove out the master after a couple of seasons. And whilst it would be a controversial way for Hamilton to end his career, I think maybe being beaten fair and square by a young gun, I think that would be a pretty good handing over of the baton and leave F1 in good hands over the next 10 or so years, rather than, you know, ending his career as the best driver in the world. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, if Bottas went and won the championship, that would be quite something as well. Also, just on the topic of Ocon, I don't know if anyone else has listens to the Beyond the Grid podcast by F1, but of course yeah, you have. Have you listened to the Ocon one?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh,
That's not the most recent one, right? No, that was Kimi.
No, it was one of the one of the earlier ones.
Yeah,
was
very good.
the Ocon one. Yeah, really interesting how they, you know, sold their house to live in a motorhome for 2 years and just went driving around. That level of commitment, I think that maybe you know, even when he wasn't guaranteed an F1 seat, the fact that he was still smiling around the paddock, I think that kind of showed how just the fact that he had a foot firmly in the doorway of Formula One, I think was enough for him you know, until he was about 19 years old before he got that connection with Toto Wolff. His future in motorsport was never kind of clear.
What's concerning though is, of course, you hear about say people like Ocon, or maybe even to an extent Hamilton. You know, there's stories of, you know, Hamilton's dad working 3 jobs and all this sort of stuff and mortgaging the house, whatever they did. What's concerning is how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families are there out there that have gone through that same process, and of course they've never made it. And you know what's happened to the rest of their lives. You know, it's a bit, it's a cool story, but it doesn't reflect that well on motorsport as a whole when you've got a huge talent like Ocon, and they had to risk like the family's livelihood. It kind of sounds like ultimately for him to get the chance that he needed. You know, so it's pretty crazy. Is Ilbrink going to get one more lap in? It's going to be fairly close, aren't we? 40 seconds
yeah, one
left.
more.
I guess we're going to get one more. Just about.
Yeah, well, personally, I used to do karting myself for a few years, and whilst I certainly wasn't as talented as Esteban Ocon, and I certainly wasn't good enough to go to a pro level, despite you know, being kind of national level at the time, didn't quite have that that kind of absolute talent that you have to really become make it big in the motorsport world. But you know, financially for us, it was absolutely no chance. And I'm from a decent, well-off family. I think probably much better than Ocon's family or Lewis Hamilton's family. But I imagine probably a future in motorsport is probably available to probably about 5% of British households, if that, without significant backing. And backing isn't easy to get. You don't tend to get Ron Dennis walking around the paddock, unfortunately. So it is almost impossible, and it absolutely needs to be addressed very quickly, because yeah, it's shocking that you got, you know, a major sporting category which is available to, yeah, like I said, less than 5% of people in this one of the most prosperous countries in the world.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Obviously, for sure, by its definition, motorsport is always going to be less accessible than your other, you know, team sports, whatever it might be. But yeah, for sure, it's just insane, you know. So I can't really see a way back from any of that. You know, it's always just going to get more and more advanced, and you know, it will find a way to continue. But certainly, somewhere like iRacing, as we're seeing today, that's the future, isn't it? That's, you know, that is where ground level motorsports is coming from today. Right, so Paul Ilbrick working his way through Casino Triangle, going to take the win for race 2 of the World F3 Championship. Rasmussen, cracking job for giving us a decent race in the first half of race 2. Only 2.5 seconds back in the end, so yeah, cracking job from him to hang in there. If Doka's a minute back, so he's going to take a little bit of time to come through. And what a sad state of affairs that the last runner is going to be on the podium spot.
Yes. So I'm just thinking Monaco 96. I think that's no 4 drivers. Apologies, finished that one. Was of course Panis winning the race.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
So
Panis, and then Herbert and Coulthard also on the.
Did we have the same amount of starters today as there was for the infamous Indianapolis race? I'm trying to think, was that 6 or 8? Maybe it was 8.
Oh, I'm not sure.
So yeah. Anyways, but no, like I say, race 1 was a real shame. Like how we had so many incidents in there and coming together. I mean, one of them was netcode for sure between Rasmussen and Simpson, but like, I don't know, maybe again you got to play those percentages a little bit like we saw Ilbrink doing. So that was a real shame. Destroyed that race really. But yeah, cracking job in race 2. We saw a good 3-car battle until Doka unfortunately lost it just here coming off the hairpin. And then Rasmussen as Ilbrink gave us that entertainment for the remainder of what, the first half of the race or so. And then, fortunately, of course, everybody then had our delightful and novel views on motorsport that can't be heard anywhere else from any other sources to keep them entertained for the rest of the race. So, yeah, thank you to Ilbrink and Rasmussen especially for giving us something to talk about there.
Yeah, absolutely. They're dual out there as they're exhibiting right now. Running side by side around the rest of the circuit was very entertaining. And some of those moves there from Rasmussen were absolutely superb. Really was a very impressive drive from the pair of them. So, this won't take very long. The results. Ilbrink wins.
Take a deep breath.
2.7 seconds ahead of Nicholas Rasmussen. Michael Doka was 1 minute behind after a crash. Had to come into the pits to pick up his faster pack. And unfortunately, Josh Rayfield did not finish the race. He was 16 laps down. I don't really need to look in Discord to see if we've got anyone wait. Oh no, sorry, we do have someone waiting. He's still driving out there. Credit to Paul Ilbrink. Well, he can operate Discord and drive simultaneously with another car at the same time without fault. So we'll wait for him to actually, become stationary in the pit lane before we drag him in. And we'll have a chat with our race 1 and race 2 winner. So, Paul, well done out there. Not too many drivers, of course, for you to fight with, but that race 2 against Nicholas looked very fun.
Yeah, definitely was. After the first race, I was a bit unsure how I need to approach this race because 6th gear especially was a bit of a challenge because it was perfect for driving alone, but I think I would have hit the limiter if I didn't lengthen it, so I did, and I'm glad I did. So I got some good runs on him in the draft, and it definitely was quite interesting the first couple of laps to see us battling each other, I guess, because it was like easy to overtake, but to really drive away was quite hard, and it required a little bit of a mistake or a really good corner to straighten, have a good gap on the straight, and that was quite fun. Despite there being just a couple guys on track, I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it looked like very good fun out there. It must have been difficult to kind of keep your concentration through the race. Were you backing off at all out there, or were you trying to kind of keep your intensity quite high to make sure that you didn't make a mistake?
I was certainly not backing off. Maybe I wasn't driving like 101%, but I was definitely pushing, and Nicholas was on certain laps, he was at least as quick as me, maybe a little bit quicker on some laps. On other laps I could build a gap a little bit, but I definitely had no room for big errors at least, so he kept me honest throughout the whole race, and yeah.
And how did you find the circuit out there? Of course, this is a bit of a legendary one. Is Suzuka a good track for this car?
I think for this car, yes. I've raced here in F1 as well, and I thought like it's a good track for driving in general, but it's more difficult to race at with other cars. But I think with this F3 car, it's really well suited for it. You have like plenty of overtaking opportunities, and yeah, it's a shame not more cars were on track, so you could have seen even more battles out there. But yeah, I think it's a good race track for this car.
Absolutely. And next up, we head to Nürburgring for the penultimate round of the championship. Whilst this is one of the best tracks in the world, I wouldn't quite rate Nürburgring that quite that high, unless you may disagree with myself. But no, that should be. Are you looking forward to that one?
I quite enjoy the track, except for the final chicane, because I think we're running the Grand Prix layout, and that final chicane is just horrible. But outside of that, I quite enjoy the track. So yeah, I think we have a week off as well now before the next race, if I'm not wrong. But
Yeah, I think you might be right.
I hope it is the thing people need to like have a bit of a break, and then hopefully a bit more people show up again for the final stint of the season, and should have some good races then, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been good to talk to you, Paul. And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Just everyone on my team, our sponsors, Six Sideways, Motorsport Podcast, Turn Racing, Simmortal, and Arma Center, and all the others that I forget now. But you guys for doing the broadcast and hanging in there, and Matt for organizing the championship. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
All right. Yeah.
We've also got another driver in the waiting area, and Leo, you okay to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So, evening, Nicholas. Congratulations on your solid night of racing. We were eternally grateful for you giving Paul a good run for his money there in race 2.
Yeah, it was awesome. Paul is a fantastic driver. I knew I could race him as hard as anybody else, really. And he will always leave the gap so that we can just race closely together, which is what it's really all about. I'm super sad not to see any more drivers out here, to be honest. I think the league deserves much more drivers. You guys in the broadcasting the race and the viewers, the sponsors deserve like a lot more drivers here, and it's sad to see that there's nobody really here racing, but I think it's due to the car really. But yeah, I enjoyed today's race. I had a good race with Alex in the first race. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what really happened, if it was minor contact, but he went off the track and retired from the race. It was a good scrap, and then obviously the race with Paul in the second one was it was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I'm glad you guys did as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and in that race 1, yeah, it was a small amount of netcode contact. So for sure, you had left enough space. It looked like Alex kind of pushed you fairly tight, but again tried to leave a space. And yeah, a little bit of netcode is what speared Alex off, unfortunately. It looked like you really had that section of track kind of hooked up though. The exit of turn 2 into the S's, you managed to put yourself in a strong position several times to either defend and stay ahead or to make a move.
Yeah, I think it was the strongest part of the track for me. So obviously had to do whatever I could there to make sure I could make some moves there. And they turn 1 and 2 kind of banks, so you can actually hang around the outside. You really got to trust the driver on the inside, and obviously that's something I could do here today, so that provided for some good racing. Unfortunately for me, Paul was the quicker driver. He was both in race 1 and race 2. Obviously he won it. So once he really broke more than a second away from me, I couldn't really counter-attack, and yeah, that wasn't really any more I could do. I was pushing really hard to try and catch back up again, but I didn't really have enough. He was clearly the faster driver.
Yeah, no, so it's Paul Ilbrink, we know, massively experienced driver at the top level. So it's a cracking job to give him a run for money. And again, with the poor field, certainly us and the viewers were again very, very glad that you were able to give us a good race. It was nice to, well, at one time the whole the whole field in race 2 there were in the same camera shot, so that was very fortunate for a while. So yeah, so thank you again, Nicholas. Have you got anyone that you would like to thank?
Again, thanks, Paul, for a great race. That was awesome. I hope we get to do it again in 2 weeks, and obviously for the season finale. And I hope to see more drivers here. Gotta thank everybody making this championship happen. If anybody want to race in this championship, try and reach out. I'm not sure if it's closed off, so you can't enter the championship. But again, if anybody want to race and can get into the league by the admins, reach out to us at NHR Esport, and we will make sure you got a decent set and get you ready to go. Thanks to the sponsors of the team, Crankfield Simulation, Newman Racing, and yeah, everybody watching. Hope to see you guys in 2 weeks. Oh, sorry, 1 week.
No, you're right. Week off next week.
Oh, week off
as far as we know. So yeah, week to recover, and then like I say, we shall see everyone back at Nürburgring in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
So yes, that's going to about wrap up our night of racing. Like I say, it was really glad for race 2 there, giving us some decent action in the first half. I was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It was yeah, that race 2 for the first half, first 16 minutes or so in particular, was really good fun out there. And hopefully we'll see similar at Nürburgring. I gave Nürburgring a very hard time there, but I do feel as though it's a little bit overused. But in these cars, it should be good. And apart from that first sector, and like Paul was saying, the final chicane as well, it's actually a very good circuit, to be fair to it, and actually quite similar to Suzuka in some ways, with kind of the fast-flowing kind of banking corners. So that one should be very good fun. In 2 weeks' time, we believe, although, do check. It might be on next week. So do check on our YouTube channel, also our Facebook page as well. Certainly give that a like, and our Twitch channel as well. And then also our Instagram account. I don't think we post too much on our Instagram account, but, still worth following it. And maybe if we do start posting some stuff on it, it certainly will be worth the time. Of course, tomorrow, like I've said a couple of times already, we've got the BSRTC Pro Series Media Day. Should be really good fun. That also the Sim Racers World GT Series. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you back soon on Apex Racing TV, as I believe Discord is dying, so I might sound horrendous right now, although now it seems to be back in. So we will see you in next time on Apex Racing TV.